Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. I am Grundy, you are Go for Grundy, and welcome back to the Grundy and Jay channel. Today we're going to be discussing the events surrounding the Jordan Neely incident. Because of the sensitive nature of today's topic, I'm going to be keeping jokes to a minimum. I'm also not going to be showing the original video, as I believe it may get my tiny YouTube channel flagged, and I'm not ready to head on over to Rumble just yet. So without further ado, let's take a look at what happened. According to witnesses on the train, at 2:30 p.m. on Monday, Jordan Neely was riding the F train heading towards Broadway Lafayette Station, where he started screaming and throwing garbage at fellow passengers, according to the witnesses. So that's it. This is what happened. Juan Alberto Vasquez, who was on the train, filmed the chokehold, said Neely yelled, "I don't have food, I don't have drink, I'm fed up, I don't mind going to jail and getting life in prison, I'm ready to die." A fight broke out between the former Marine, who has not yet been named, who we now know who has been named, who put him in a chokehold, and we all know what happened from there. The media began running grainy videos of Jordan Neely doing his Michael Jackson routine. And the reason those videos are grainy is because they're in standard definition, because that's how far you have to go back to find a video of Jordan Neely where he isn't acting like a complete lunatic. As a result, we have two conversations happening at once. We have the left, which is currently saying things like, "Oh, if only everyone had had proper health care, then, Jordan Neely never would have been on that subway, and therefore never would have been, in a confrontation with that Marine that killed him." And then you have the right that is saying, well, if they were arresting criminals after their 40th arrest in 10 years and keeping them arrested in some capacity, then he also wouldn't have been on that train. As a Canadian looking in, they're both a little bit right. It looks like New York City services are just completely failing. We're going to see more people like Jose Alba. We're going to see, you're going to start seeing a Rittenhouse every week. That's what's going to happen unless people start doing something. Now, here's the tough part of the conversation that people don't want to have. Whose fault is this? At the end of the day, regardless of what institutions we blame, it is a fight involving, four people on a subway. That's what we're looking at here. We're looking at a fight involving four people on a subway. Now, three of those people were supposed to be there. They were using the subway for its intended purpose of traveling to and from a destination. You have one individual who was not using the subway for its intended purpose and was instead using it as a bathroom, a place to look for victims, a place to commit crimes. So when I look at a situation where you have three people that are at a place doing what they're supposed to be doing, and you have a person who is not at a place not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then the four of them get in a fight where the three people doing what they are supposed to be doing are against the one person who's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, I find it hard to take a position where you root for the person who is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. It makes no sense to me. There was an old case where a burglar was coming in through the skylight, and they fell through the skylight, and they fell on the kitchen table, and there was a knife on the kitchen table, and they ended up stabbing themselves as they fell through the roof of the house they were trying to steal from. They sued the homeowner, saying the kitchen knife shouldn't have been on the counter or the table or whatever, and for some reason they won. Now that blows my mind, okay? Blows my absolute mind. Why? Because the person who is supposed to be in that house has jurisdiction over where they put their shit, okay? And the person who's not supposed to be there, not doing what they're doing, does not have a right to dictate how shit goes in that house. It blows my fucking mind, okay? Why do we dig into criminal histories? Okay? Because like I said, when you have people who are at a place doing what they're supposed to be doing, using a thing for its intended purpose, and someone comes up and tries to either stop them or intimidate them from using the thing for its intended purpose, well, I want to know more. I want to know, does this person have a history of doing this? And guess what? Guess what? He does. And why is it important that we know that this guy has a repeat criminal history? Because when we have the opinions of three people on one side giving the same account, and you have, no account on the other side because this guy has died and everyone else is claiming self-defense, we're going to be like, how likely is it that they actually were defending themselves? And you're going to ask questions like, well, was he defending himself against a 96-year-old woman who weighs 80 pounds? This with no criminal history at all? Was this lady, this happened to be the day that she decided she was going to be a criminal? No. No, people are going to look at that. They're going to be like, huh, that's a little wonky. But when you have three guys that are giving an account of self-defense against a guy who routinely, violently assaults people with 40 fucking arrests, yeah, I'm going to believe their account. So why did this happen? This happened because of failure, systemic failure on every level, okay? There should be a place that Jordan Neely can be put. He's a threat to others. Even in socialist Canada where I live, this problem would not be solved. All right? Because the hospitals don't go around looking for mentally ill people. You know who does that as a byproduct of what they do every day? The police. The police are the ones who end up encountering these people. And so the police use the justice system for its intended purpose of getting these people off the streets. Now, the problem is the social services we have can't just kidnap a person. Okay? You understand this? If a person wants to get out, they're going to get out. Well, homeless people are not just default idiots. These are people that have figured out weird shit. I mean, look in prison. You know, just because they're in prison doesn't mean they're dumb. And just like people are homeless doesn't mean they're fucking stupid. They will figure out a way to get what they want, right? And you can't hold them if they don't want to be held. They will find a way to get out. And once they get out, well, they don't have to go back to a house where you can find them because they're homeless and they can disappear into the wind. It's particularly difficult. So if we want to do anything, it has to be done at the police level. And when you have a guy who's been arrested 40 times, well, the police have failed him. He wouldn't have died if he was in jail. I blame the justice system in New York for failing this man at every level and failing the citizens of New York at every level. And I blame Jordan Neely. When you threaten people, people are going to defend themselves. It is just going to happen. And when people defend themselves, there is never a zero risk of them defending themselves will not lead to your death. I'm sorry. If you punched him in the face, he would have fallen on the ground, smacked his head on the floor, and start bleeding from the head. If someone tries to do what they did and just, keep him in a chokehold, well, there's always the risk that he could crush his larynx and asphyxiate him and die. There's always the risk when you punch a guy, you could just hit him in the wrong part of the temple and give him fucking mental problems for the rest of his life. You punch someone in the stomach, there's a risk of you rupturing their spleen. You shoot someone in the leg, there's a risk of hitting an artery. Every form of self-defense has a risk of lethality. That risk is never zero. And so people like Lance at the Surfs, the absolute clown, saying that like, oh, did you have to kill him? It's like, no, you didn't have to, but it's always a risk. It's always a chance it's going to happen. And so the best way to avoid that risk is not to attack people. Jordan Neely fucked around. Jordan Neely found out. Of course there's going to be a lawsuit. I find it kind of ironic that the family members of these people are never there to like help them when they're alive. They're never there to stop them from going out and being a menace and harassing other people. But they're always there to add their name to the lawsuit after the fact. See, it sure is a quinky dink, huh? Sure is funny how that works. The only question nobody seems to be asking is what the F are you supposed to do when a violent thug approaches you in a public area and is threatening you and other people? That's the only question nobody seems to want to answer. What the F do you do? What is the right answer? What is the correct thing that's not going to get you, stabbed or killed by a crazy person and not going to get you arrested after the fact once you've dealt with the problem? Name the fucking solution, because you don't have any. What do you do with a group of homeless men who are harassing 12-year-old girls on their way home from school? What do you do with a guy who is attacking you with a knife? What do you do when you can't even get to the subway because it is blocked by homeless people sleeping? What do you do? What is the solution? And I don't mean the solution systemically. I mean, you approach the subway in the morning. It's 5:30 a.m. and you can't make it to the door without stepping on a human being. What do you do at that point? You don't have a solution. The government doesn't have a solution to that. The government creates the problems, though. They let the people out of jail. They fucking don't keep these people off the streets. Homeless people aren't homeless because we don't have services for them. They're not homeless because we don't have homeless shelters. They're homeless because the homeless shelters don't allow them to smoke crack in the homeless shelter. That's why they're homeless. If you set up a prison with free drugs, all the homeless people would all of a sudden just live in the prison. They would choose to live in the prison. That's just the way it is. Okay? So right now, prisons full of free drugs is looking like a pretty good fucking option. I mean, I might even sign up for prison if it was full of free drugs. Let's not lie. You could create a homeless utopia. You could find an abandoned mining town, fill the supermarkets with free food, fill the pharmacy with, essential medications, and they would still choose to live in tents in front of the buildings. The homeless utopia is the way that the homeless live now. That's the way they want to live. When we find one who's violent and threatening towards other people, well then we have no choice. We gotta send the police. They gotta take the person off the street. They gotta lock him up. There's no other choice. In the case of Jordan Neely, it boggles the mind that he wasn't already locked up to begin with. We're talking about a guy that attempted to kidnap a 7-year-old child. If I have to choose between giving the benefit of the doubt to a man who punched an elderly woman and kidnapped a 7-year-old child, and giving the benefit of the doubt to a Marine who stopped the guy who punched an elderly woman and the kidnapping of a 7-year-old child, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the Marine 100 times out of 100. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And it's the way it should be for everyone. And if it's not, then you're weird or you're lying. I am Grundy. You've been watching the Grundy and Jay channel. Please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at GoForGrundy. Have yourself a grunderful day. Grundy out.